also a Tea Party patriot. He has been attending our meetings for quite some time, and his topic is fiscal responsibility. When we were looking for a title for his talk, he said, should it be fiscal responsibility or is it lack thereof? And we have to agree that our government is lacking in fiscal responsibility. Well, Jeff has had a lot of experience working with the government, and he has lots of things to tell us. He is with Redwood Capital Funding, and I think you'll enjoy listening to what he has to say.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'm going to have to turn this down a little bit. Maybe I'll move this over there. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, someone asked me earlier if I was a CPA. I said, God, no, I hate to bore you people to death and put you to sleep. So what I do is I do commercial funding. I work a lot with the developers. I work a lot with commercial properties and things of that nature. So I've had meetings with a lot of the people that I'm talking about. And it's taken me years to really understand how governments think about budgets. And the way they look at budgets and the way we look at budgets are completely different. And that's led to this particular topic. I am not going to get into the minutia of the accounting practices that they do. I am not going to get into the different things that they get into talking about. I am going to get some broad-based concepts that I'm going to talk about. So it may seem at times simplistic, but I'm building a case here to explain to you exactly what's going on and how it works. So I have to do it in this manner. So we're going to talk about some basic terms, concepts, and budgets, fiscal responsibility, and basically things of that nature. What exactly is fiscal responsibility? Okay, our mission at the Tea Party, Patriots, the mission is to restore America's founding principles of fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free market. As our prior speaker talked about, free markets work. Japan is a great example of that. It was a country that went from 1945 and had an imperial monarchy to one within 50 to 60 years was one of the top producing nations of the world. So how is it they were able to do that? He explained that, and some of those things were very wonderful. But basically, this is from the Tea Party website. Fiscal responsibility is not overspending, and it's not about burdening our children and grandchildren with our bills. It's more about fiscal responsibility, taking the government and limiting the amount that they spend on programs, right? It's fiscal responsibility to honor and respect the freedoms of individuals to spend the money that and the fruits of their labor that they earn. A limited government designed to protect the blessings of liberty, much like the fiscal responsibility of its subjects and citizenry, to higher levels of taxation that unjustly restrict the liberties of our Constitution designed to protect. Ladies and gentlemen, what does that exactly mean? It means we need to take a much simpler approach to budgeting. Right? Don't spend it if we don't have it. That's what my grandparents learned when they went through the Depression. That's what my parents learned. If you didn't have the money, you didn't spend it. If you wanted to buy something, you saved, worked, and earned for it. That's one of the things that we need to return to, not only ourselves, as well as teach our children. All right? So we're going to define a couple of terms here because of the fact that the way they use their terms and the terminology that they use is vastly different than what we use. One of the things we're going to talk about really quickly here is debt. Debt is basically borrowing current monies with future income. So you're pledging basically your future earned income to a debt that you're taking now. That's one of the things that we're doing to our children. We're burdening on the website, right? It shows that we're $17 trillion. That's with a T, trillion. But the actual number is about 74 trillion, right? So those are things that we're handing to our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren that are yet unborn. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at budgets in a very simplistic manner, right? This is a basic homeowner's budget, right? On average, most families earn about $48,000 a year in income. That's a husband and wife working without any college education. If you've got a college education, it goes up only to about $60,000, $70,000, but that's all that they're making. So a basic budget, right, is the idea that you're taking this $48,905 right here, and then you've got all your expenses that come out. That's only $4,000 a month that you're bringing in, right? And what you do out of that is you pay Social Security, Medi-Cal, taxes, income taxes that are withheld that you can pay to the future government. So on average, you're only making about $42,000. The whole idea at the end of the month is you end up with about $5,000 of discretionary income that you can either invest or you can use to play, right? That's the whole idea on a basic individual budget. So if you really want to increase it, your business model, and I want to use that as a great reference, because as a business model, what you want to do is you want to increase your skills, knowledge, talent, and then what you want to do is that when you go to school, you get a better job, you may get a secondary job, but you increase your income so that way you make more money, you can also that way you can also pay more taxes, right? Yeah, boo, right? Well, the idea is nowadays, well, the taxes that kicked in on January 1st with Obamacare with a lot of people. Basically, business budget, it's the same thing. You have a good or service that you serve into the economy, and then what you do is you sell those services. And what you do after that is you minus out the expenses. So you start, basically, human budgets, individual family budgets, as well as business budgets. You always start with what? Income. Where you start is where you always start with income. You look at your expenses, and then you end up with a profit. You have to make a profit in a business. If you do not make a profit in a business, you will not survive. You can only sustain yourself as long as you either have money coming in or you have savings to be able to sustain yourself, right? So that what you want to do is make a profit and then you share it with your partner, Uncle Sam, right? Exactly. So the basic business model is this. Find or create a product, or good or service, sell it to the customers, find more customers to sell to, and you will increase your business and grow your business. Doctors have patients. Service providers have customers. Retail stores sell their products or whatever it is. Restaurants here sell booze, service, and food, right? The idea is if you have to make a profit to be able to grow your business and be able to get bigger. If you don't have that money, you are not going to sustain yourself. So, there is only a couple of ways to watch it to make more money. You either increase your income or you decrease your spending, right? Cut expenses. What is it when people go, oh, we've got a little bit of, we've got more months than we have money? We've got to cut our spending, right? Government budgeting, ladies and gentlemen, is vastly different. They always talk about the deficit, right? Okay, so the idea here is what they do is they start with a budget. And they estimate what they're going to spend. A lot of times they implement these things as a means of implementing it into the government and into the spending program. So they write bills, they create all these different things. Then what they do is they look at the revenues that they're actually bringing in. The amount of money that they're actually bringing in from all the different fees, all the different services, assessments, taxes, and ad infinitum, right? And then you have the difference, which is what? The one thing everybody screams about. The deficit, right? So that's the difference between what's actually spent on paper, and that's only on paper, and what we're actually bringing in. So basically, government budgeting is the difference between the revenues and spending and the amount of money that's coming in. Now, they say that they had a surplus a number of years ago. They call it a negative balance if the government is running a deficit, right? The difference is, a lot of times what they do is they borrow the money to make up the difference for the deficit, right? The deficit and the debt that you're borrowing is money that they're actually putting into their budget to be able to spend the difference. The idea here is, let me go to the next one. It doesn't want to cooperate. All right, here we go. All right, so right now, we're spending about 40 cents of every dollar we spend. That's 40 cents of every dollar they take in on interest payments. That's the amount of money that they're going into those things, right? And we're currently spending about $33,367 per minute right now on our debt. That's meaning, this meeting, we've probably accumulated an additional $5 to $6 million of deficit. So the idea is that if I as an individual wanted to go out there and spend my money, I would go out there and say, look, I need a Ferrari, right? I don't have enough income, but I've got to figure a way I can pick your pocket to be able to come up with my Ferrari. So ladies and gentlemen, I have a Ferrari deficit. And so if anybody wants to help me with the Ferrari deficit, I'd like to speak with you after this meeting, and we can figure out a way that I can be able to get my Ferrari on these things, right? That means I would have to come up with an approximately an additional $20,000, because they're about $250,000 on the Ferraris. I'd have to come up with an additional $20,000 a month, which is about $16,000 a month to pay for my Ferrari. Now, is that actually good budgeting, or is that inappropriate? Go ahead. All right. So, the government business model that they talk about all the time, they increase spending. They add to the budget, right? Then what they do is they go out and they find ways and means to tax more. That's what the Congressional Budget Committee does. It's a ways and means budget. Their job is to go out and come up with creative and additional means to tax you, me, and everybody else we can to come up with additional monies that they can take so that they can cover the budget that they've already estimated spending. And then the next thing is every year they repeat the project, right? So what they do is they create the budget, what they want to spend the money on. They spend it on national defense, social programs, social security, disaster relief. Ladies and gentlemen, Hurricane Sandy, when that went through, when they passed those budget amendments, that is not taking money out of the program from somewhere else and applying it to somewhere else. What they're doing is they're saying, we're going to budget $1 trillion for these reliefs. That's why if you actually dig into those programs, you will see that there's money that's going to all kinds of different items. I'm not going to go into all the different details of it today because we don't necessarily have the time to, but that in and of itself, by itself, can be a whole day's just digging through the whole these things, right? So what they did was they went ahead, they spent it, and now they have to come up with a way for you and me and our kids to pay for it. Go ahead. So what is included in projected spending? Dun, dun, dun. One more time. Everything! One more time. All right. Oh, okay, sorry. Every time Congress acts to pass a bill, create a new department, that means creating a new czar, chief, but those who are beholden to Obama in executive office, that's another conversation in and of itself. Because then that whole department sticks around for a number of years. It's not just one time and then fades away. He creates a whole new department, plus the new regulations. They also do the supplemental bills. They fund something. They extend credit to our foreign allies so that they can buy money on and buy tanks on our credit card, right? Once again, disaster relief, as well as interest payments. Okay, here's a good explanation, and I think this should explain to Sam how they do a lot of the budgeting process, right? So there's 3 contractors, and they're all running late because they're going to their next job, and they haven't had a chance to get there, so they're running late. They all run through the same intersection. They all hit the trucks together, and they all kill themselves, and they die, and they go before St. Peter. And then St. Peter goes, you know, we got a lot of contractors. We don't really need any more of you guys. Right? We don't need any more of you guys. So what we're going to do is, the pearly gates, they need a little bit of work. So what we're going to do, we're going to put out a budget, we're going to put some bids out, and we're going to have you guys submit bids, and whoever has the best bid is going to be the one that's going to get the project and get the job. And they go, okay, that's great. What are you going to do? And Joe goes, you know what? I'm a little guy, I just started out, I'm not making a lot of money, I don't have the insurance, but I'm going to do the job for $3,000. And he goes, okay, that's great. Turns to the next guy. He goes, you know what, Charlie? He goes, you know what? I've got my overhead, I've got some expenses, I got my insurance, I'm licensed. I'm going to do it for 6,000 because I still got to, cover all my costs by guys and spend some money and be able to make a little bit of money. And he goes, oh, that's not too bad. Okay. And so then he goes to the next guy. He goes, my name's Charlie, not Charlie, Joe. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to get you a great deal. I'm going to do it for $9,000. St. Peter looks at him, what are you talking about? What are you going to do it for $9,000 for? He goes, yeah, that's easy. The budgeting's like this. $3,000 for you, $3,000 for me, and we're going to get Joe to do the work. Right? On the budget, this is actually from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office function. This is the different categories, line items that they do. How many items are included in the line item budget? 9,648. That's on the just basic line item budgets that they take out and they estimate and add to, right? One of the net number is 900, it's net interest. That key with the net interest is, if you borrow money in the future and you only pay your interest payments on it, it's a smaller item than borrowing the money itself. Only the payments go into the budget, right? So that's a very key critical point here, because of the fact that what they're doing is they're going like, as long as we borrow the money, it doesn't matter. That's why they're pushing it up as far as they can, because all those items, they get to spend the money and they get to create that money. It's borrowed money. They classify it as income to them. All right? That is the CBO's estimation. Now, the key here to understanding this here is those are negative numbers. These numbers here, those are all negative numbers. So they start at $650 billion. And that's their estimate for the next 10 years based upon the Obama budget right now. All right? That's it as a percentage of GDP and over the last 20 years. So the idea is that it's always as a percentage of GDP, and what they're doing is they're basically saying, we're just going to keep spending the money. If you look at the future here, at the very end, right over there, that's all the estimates, and what they're doing is that these things are estimated on the amount of revenues that they're bringing in and the amount of money that they're going to be spending. That's the key there. This is also, okay, all right, the American Recovery Act. When they spent that money, that was all additional revenues that they stuck in the budget. That was not monies that they had before. Those were all new monies to be spent against the budget. And that was the estimated outlay of all that. Originally estimated at $787 billion. Last I saw it a couple of days ago when I looked it up, it was like $1.2 trillion is what we've already spent on this thing. I think they're actually in the sign business. You ever drove around and seen all these signs? I want to own a sign business because that's all I've ever really seen them doing is putting Americans to work, project funded by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. What it should really read is putting America deeper in debt, right? Project funded by the enslavement of your grandchildren to the Chinese government. This is some other minutia that they have on their website. They're talking about the projections. This was actually embedded in their little thing, and I was going through and reading it. That's not a lot of fun, but sometimes you have to do it. But the key point here that you have to know is, however, those projections depend heavily on significant increases in taxes, ladies and gentlemen. What they're saying there is they're going to have to go out and find ways to tax everybody to increase the revenues and the revenue streams that they're going to be able to bring in. That's what they're basically saying, and they buried it in a footnote somewhere in that budget. All right? You remember the peace dividend under Clinton? Some of the people, that was one of the things that they chose before. All right? What did they do to estimate the national spending and the reallocation of funds? They gave IOUs to Social Security and Medi-Cal. They took the monies that was supposed to be spent over there and they classified it as income and took the money and spent it as if it was just regular income. So what they're saying is, we're going to give all the Social Security recipients that are out there that are going to be claiming it sometime in the next 10 or 15 years, or 20 years, we're going to give them IOUs. It's the same thing that they're doing. So those people are going to get IOUs, and we're hopefully that we won't have to deal with it. It's kicking the can down the road. Another thing that they want to talk about, pension funds. There's two types of pension funds, right? Defined benefit plans and defined contributions. Defined benefit plans are basically IOUs. It's an estimate that says, okay, at some future date, we're going to pay you a percentage of what you actually earn. So one of the things you want to remember about defined pension plans is it's unfunded future liability. They're going to have to, at some point in time, come up with additional revenues to be able to cover those expenses. A case in point, ladies and gentlemen, Detroit City. Right? $200 million of unfunded liabilities annually. That's annually. More pension obligations for most city workers. They owe more than $100,000 in creditors. One estimate is the city has more unfunded liabilities in the $20 billion range. Right? The city has more unsustainable ratio of workers to retirees than they could ever sustain themselves. Even the person, Mr. Kevin Orr, who's the Detroit emergency manager, what the average Detroiter needs to understand, and that where we are right now, is a accumulation of years and years and years of kicking the can down the road. Even he understands this, and he's trying to explain that to them. You know, we're tapped out. We've come up with a plan to restructure our debt obligations and our legacy obligations going forward. That is our pension and our employee benefits, health care, so on and so forth. Unions are sucking us dry, ladies and gentlemen. A local example, I didn't get the statistics, but where are we at with the city of San Bernardino, or the county of San Bernardino right now? Right? They filed it. What about, we have some people here from Hemet, right? Right. Yes, hi. Guess what? City of Hemet has $96 million in unfunded liabilities. I heard that from one of the city council people over there, myself, as well as the budget director over there. I actually had a meeting with her a couple of years ago as part of my job. $96 million. That's close to $100 million. So, a governmental budget would be like me once again creating a budget for me to have a Ferrari, and I have to figure out a way to come and pick your pocket to be able to do that. So, what we need to do is we have to figure out to get me a Ferrari, right? It's increased, right? Absolutely. Okay.
Bicycle.
There we go. A Ferrari bicycle, right? I want to talk a little bit about what income is. Land, labor, capital, and equipment. These are the sources that you can get most of your income from. That's us as individuals. Land, obviously we own it. Labor is our work ethic. Capital and equipment is being able to put our money in investments or things of that nature. Entrepreneurial skills is some of the things that he talked about. Having a free enough economy that we can be able to do these things so that we can capitalize and be able to create wealth for ourselves and our next generation. But what is income to government? Taxes, under all of its terms. And last report I heard there was like 245 different terms they use to classify income to themselves, that they call it different things. Entitlement fees, assessments, appropriations, everything of that nature. The other thing that they do is, once again, they're rating Social Security and Medi-Cal, the trust funds. So borrowing money and creating debt is classified as income to the government. Can you classify your creating debt as income to yourself? Can I do that? No, of course not. But they do it all the time. So you have to think about this way, ladies and gentlemen. Your business model is increase your income. If you have a business, it's a way to increase your job is to increase your income and grow your business. Ladies and gentlemen, the way that the government does these things, their job is to increase their business as well and grow it, by which they increase the budgets, and then they go out and find ways to tax you and me. That's the whole idea. Sam, that's one of the reasons why the city council is doing it this 3 times. You can make a lot more money and spend a lot more money on repairing the roads 3 different times than you can if you do it 1 time and save some money. Yep. They're not incentivized to be able to take the money, and they're not incentivized to cut the budget. The gentleman that was speaking earlier, he said, I'm going to incentivize them to be able to find the money, and we're going to split the money between the government, and we're going to split. Their incentive is to keep this program going, right? So what they do is they come up with tax, fines, fees, compliance, any other issues, and they borrow money, right? We're not going to talk about the Ways and Means. The Constitution requires that all bills start with the Ways and Means Committee. That's where the budget, the president submits the budget, and then the Congress has to come up with ways to do these things. They're on the same team. What's the economic implications of fiscal irresponsibility? We're jumping off a cliff, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you all know that a little bit, right? We've created the worst unemployment rates within the last 50 years. Okay? The only reason the unemployment rate has recently gone down is people have been on it such a long time, they're falling off. Right? So we got two choices. Obama grabs everything he could possibly get his hands on and take it from you. One of the things they talked about is their 401k program. They're talking about taking the money, issuing IOUs to you, and sticking that money in their budget and classifying as income, right? The other thing we can do, we sell everything we have. That's my son last year. I took him up to Yosemite. That's Half Dome right behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, we own a lot of land. At what point do we start selling all our assets off?
Good point.
Right? That key points to remember. The government does not have any incentive to change the way they're doing business. Let me repeat that. The government does not have any incentive to change the way they're doing business. You as a business owner and you as a household income have an incentive to cut your budget, cut your expenses, to grow your income. Theirs is counter to what we do. They're incentivized to grow their business as well. They want to spend the things that they can so they can figure out ways to suck it out of us. Right? That's their business model. Watch what they do, not what they say. I could devote a whole speech on that one for years, the border pitch. This is one of my best examples. Ladies and gentlemen, they have a thing that they funded, like I think $5 million for. It's called the WalkingSchoolBus.org. It's a 3 different organizations: U.S. Transportation, Pedestrians and Bicycles Information Center, and the Partnership for a Walking America. Guess what they do? They teach kids to walk to school. I don't know about you and me. I learned that when I was real young. My dad said, you got to get to school on time, because if you don't, you're going to get a whooping. I got up, I left. Right? All right. Oh, the other one. Let me get back to that one. The other one is, what happens if they don't get their way? Right? Ah! Help! Shut down the tours of the White House. No White House tours. Nobody's allowed to go up and see the Washington Monument. Everybody's panicked. They take away the candy from the people that are in the entitlements, because they've learned that if they take them away, those people will scream at their congressmen and all their politicians. Right? Next action step. Sign up for the Leadership Institution, ladies and gentlemen. Understand these things. Teach and train your kids what you need to do. Right? We need a taxpayer's bill of rights that says that they're not allowed to spend more money than they take in, or they have to limit it to the amount of GDP. Right? Enforce the Constitution. Know the Constitution. Educate your friends and neighbors. Let them know you're watching their every move. That means call, write, and email, fax. Let them know that you're paying attention and watching. Run for office. They have a leadership institution that's specifically designed to train you to do that. There are a lot of people here that would help you. Right? Run for a small office. Sarah Palin started on a local school board and took over the state and threw everybody out that was corrupt. That's why she was so famous, and that's why she was acknowledged for such, and that's why the left is so scared of her, right? And elect good people to office. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my kind of privilege to speak with you this night. Hopefully I brought some value and it should be questions that I'd like to take an opportunity to take them on. Oh, there.
Was this an awesome presentation or what? I don't think it's working. There we are, back again. We're running out of time. Are there any questions that are really, really burning that you would like answered?
Way back.
Okay. And the question that I'm going to ask, is there hope for America?
I'd like to answer that. Absolutely. The very fact that you guys are all sitting here this evening and taking time out of your day and efforts, we have always got an opportunity for being able to produce more, and we do have.
We have one question coming up.
My question is to anyone who went to Colorado or anyone in the room who might know. I have faxed and written my congressman. Mike Morrell is terrific. Dick Miller, I don't know that well. But writing Senators Boxer and Feinstein are just useless. And when I write them, I start with, I hope you will consider the content of this email instead of following the party line. And then I go ahead and write useless stuff that's worthwhile to people who would care. My question is, are there senators from other states who are wavering on Obamacare that we could write and encourage them? Or write our friends and encourage them to write them?
Yes.
Find out who they are.
I think you should always let them know, even Boxer and Feinstein, because you're right, they are a waste and they've already bought into the system. They've been there for a number of years. Your best bet is to reach out to people and friends and family in other states, such as South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, and those places, or those ones that are wavering. If you know people in those states, because if they hear from their local constituents, you're going to have more impact than if you and I are called. So if you have fellow people, you have family or members, friends, relatives, anybody else in those areas, my suggestion would be to call them and encourage them to make the phone call or send the letters and contact them.
It would also be worthwhile to contact every member of the gang of 8 and express their opinions. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay, if you can hear me in the back, that's a good thing. All right, well, moving on quickly, we have a wrap-up from Marilyn. She always